Now, since early this year, hundreds of thousands of Israelis have joined unprecedented mass rallies against the country's most right-wing government ever and its highly controversial plans to overhaul the justice system.
It begins in the quiet moments just before dawn, when the world still trembles with possibility. In Israel today, that stillness is deceiving because behind closed doors and toddler nap routines, families live under a thunderous storm of alerts. February fades into March, March into April, and still the sirens scream. Every buzz on a phone, every note in the public broadcast system signals one thing: drop everything, run for shelter. For parents in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in small towns tucked between coast and conflict, every trip to the grocery store includes one eye on the sky. And slowly, over dinner tables and bedtime routines, a question begins to emerge in exhausted tones. How much longer can we live like this? That question doesn't spark panic. It opens the door to possibility. Because at some point, even the strongest soldier gets tired of the battlefield. Even the bravest parent starts asking, can we give our children something else? What if safety didn't feel like a vacation? What if it wasn't a short reprieve between missiles, but the ground under your feet, the air in your lungs, the lullaby beside your toddler's crib? That's the promise Israelis are beginning to chase. Not in Switzerland or Canada, not in echoing, unfamiliar places, but in the Philippines. A nation of islands, dances, sunrises over the sea, and communities that love to laugh. If that idea surprised you, you're not alone. But beneath the palm trees and karaoke bars lies a history of unexpected hospitality and a present moment of quiet transformation. This isn't a story about politics or destination paradise. It's a story about choosing, in the loudest moment, to reclaim peace.
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
The turning point came when Israel launched Operation Rising Lion in June of 2025. It was a calculated strike, but its effects rolled far beyond military targets. Overnight, normal life unraveled further. Schools replaced morning assemblies with emergency drills. Conversations once focused on weekend plans turned into logistics about safe exits and backup batteries. The economy hunkered, productivity wavered, and somewhere beyond the numbers, something less quantifiable cracked at a human level: the capacity to endure. The Israeli people, resilient, determined, steeped in national history, suddenly found themselves redefining what protection looks like. It wasn't just layers of defense or shelter infrastructure, it was the ability to awake without adrenaline, to plan tomorrow without always preparing for the worst. Then, quietly, people began to reimagine where that tomorrow could be. They started searching for countries with tropical sunsets, secure Wi-Fi, easy visas, and a welcoming heart. They wanted more than survival, they wanted serenity. And it wasn't just money that drew them, it was memory. Back in the 1930s, the Philippines offered refuge to more than 1,300 Jewish people fleeing Nazi persecution. No headlines, no grand ceremonies, just a warm invitation. Stay here. That little act of kindness became legend, passed down through generations like a half-whispered secret. Now fast forward to the 2020s, and that bridge is being crossed again, this time in reverse. The descendants of those rescued are venturing to that same archipelago, walking into a history of hospitality with luggage and laptops in tow. Once the choice was made, the transition began. But it wasn't dramatic or chaotic, there was a rhythm to it. It started with a few families, engineers coding on a balcony in Cebu, artists collaborating in Manila co-working spaces, couples opening small cafes in Davao. Visas were granted through easy agreements, flights were booked during early mornings, often under the sunrise. 2 suitcases, a stroller, a camera full of goodbyes, a leap toward hope. And the result? A wave. Not desperate or disoriented, but deliberate and determined. What makes this movement cinematic isn't the grandeur, it's the human up-close moments. Picture an Israeli toddler at a small schoolyard on a Philippine island who doesn't duck at a siren, but giggles through soccer drills. Picture parents sitting at open-air cafes discussing code and entrepreneurship rather than emergency plans. Picture neighborhoods lit for Shabbat where falafel and adobo are shared, where Hebrew and Tagalog hum together. In that intersection, history isn't past, it's present. Because transformation is most powerful when the everyday becomes extraordinary.
When these families first landed, they weren't tourists, they were beginners. In each city, they began building a life. Some enrolled their children in international schools. Others learned Tagalog through apps and neighborhood conversation. Entrepreneurs planted flags. A tech startup in Makati, a design studio in Iloilo, a sandy cafe in Palawan. The Philippines' cost of living is dramatically lower than Israel's, so those Tel Aviv salaries could suddenly stretch to dreams. A larger home with a yard, a helper, private healthcare, all without mortgage paralysis. And those jobs didn't shrink because remote work expanded. Developers attend Zoom calls with Mediterranean accents while overlooking palm trees. Graphic designers sketch wireframes by the pool. Internet costs a fraction of what they paid in Israel, but bandwidth matches. Teams collaborate across continents, combining Israeli creativity with Filipino ingenuity, creating something global, creative, and sustainable. But it isn't just work and economics, it's emotional equilibrium. Filipinos are famous for warmth, for welcoming strangers like relatives, for sharing meals and conversation without reservation. That culture seeps in. Neighbors drop by with mangoes. Teachers greet parents with the same respect they expect. Communal life doesn't feel transactional, it's relational. And for Israelis, accustomed to vigilance, to delivering critiques fast, to always staying alert, that shift feels like a balm. Place may be geography, but culture is feeling. And in Manila's suburbs, or Cebu's high-rises, or even rural Palawan, these Israeli newcomers begin to exhale. They swap bunker uniforms for board shorts, bomb-proof kits for beach towels. They walk their kids to playgrounds that echo with laughter, not duress. This slow easing of tension resonates deeply, because it's one thing to hear that nuke drills are gone. It's another to feel joy crack open in a schoolyard where childhood spoils war. Neighborhoods come together, Friday nights with falafel and Filipino dishes, Eid alongside Hanukkah gatherings, Filipino school festivals where Hebrew is recited, Jewish holidays where locals ask questions, join meals, form friendships. In time, that belonging builds roots, and roots are powerful. They shift the mind from "when can I go back" to "this is home." At the same time, the historical thread knits lives together. The goodwill of 1930s hospitality, now remembered through collective community memory, Instagram stories, synagogue dinners in Manila, gains fresh meaning. The symbolos handed down from that era become living fabrics, the rebuilt bridges between peoples. For those who arrived, understanding that legacy became emotional currency, proof of a deeper kindness, a promise with spiritual weight. That moment, almost a century ago, didn't just echo, it declared that humanity matters more than politics. And in this modern migration, that spirit is being honored again. Economic stability, emotional peace, cultural belonging, historical residence, these factors interlock and reinforce each other. Together, they create a kind of gravity around which migrants orbit and settle. And when the world is burning above, falling below, or snapping with tension at every border, those Israeli families are building an alternate orbit, one grounded in calm, connection, and conscious choice. It's cinematic because it flies in the face of expectation. It's a narrative of resilience that isn't just survival, but reclamation. They're saying we can love Israel and still choose serenity. We can preserve identity and still pursue renewal. In every move, there are logistical stories you don't hear at first, navigating government paperwork, finding pediatricians, setting up bank accounts, renting motorbikes, opening small businesses, hiring staff, setting language lessons, finding religious spaces. These are rituals of rebirth. What made you Israeli still follows you. What made you human becomes universal. It's not about leaving identity behind, it's about layering it. Because home isn't a single point on a map, It's where your story continues without fear. That's what happens when someone knee-deep in anxiety decides they deserve something better for their kids, for their career, for their own heart. The transformation happens gradually. Sirens stop appearing in dreams. A day goes by without checking the conflict map. You start to see future planning in the horizon. Garden renovations, not emergency exits. Entrepreneurial dreams unfolding without B-team on standby. It's not perfection. The Philippines has issues: economic inequality, infrastructure, tropical weather that can turn on a dime. But the difference lies in choice: crisis managed or life built. Israelis across islands are picking life. That's not to say everyone adjusts in perfect rhythm. Homesickness arrives early. Nostalgia, grief, guilt, missed birthdays in Jerusalem, family photos left behind. The grass is always greener on Tel Aviv's promenade. Those emotions don't vanish. They're woven into what it means to move, to carry two worlds in your memory. Families reach out over Zoom, gather for Jewish holidays, even locals get invited. Schools sometimes teach Hebrew. Baklava gets shared at fiestas. This is life across borders, across traditions, woven not by conflict, but by creative resilience. And gradually that fight transforms, not into easy or painless, but into empowered. PTSD gets replaced not with denial, but with acknowledgement and healing. Anxiety gets traded not for apathy, but for appreciation. The skill of alertness gets channeled into ambition. Designers launch apps that serve NGOs. Educators develop bilingual learning platforms. Cafes host intercultural events. Expatriate-led charities feed typhoon survivors. This migration isn't passive, it's generative. Israelis aren't just escaping, they're contributing. The energy they once used for survival is now rising to create.
Pull back farther and you see a regional ripple. Israeli-Philippine relations strengthen. Startup collaboration, tech summits, cultural exchanges, tourism promotions, not forced, but organically grown. Visas become frictionless, bilateral agreements get whispers of expansion. When two nations share an invisible history, tangible cooperation becomes easy. And that's what's happening. A multi-generational bridge rebuilt. Relationship forged by empathy, history, and lived experience. Imagine a corner of Cebu where Israeli kids learn Tagalog alongside their Filipino friends and come home speaking both. Imagine a class in Manila where they plant olive trees in protest of war. Imagine a Jewish-Filipino holiday where Hanukkah candles glimmer next to paroles, or where a kumusta becomes part of Hebrew vocabulary. That's the living choreography of coexistence. Peace as daily habit, connection as individual action, culture as vibrant ecology. Some may ask, isn't this brain drain? Yes, some of Israel's best and brightest moving out, but others see it differently. Maybe it's brain expansion, intellectual diplomacy unbound by armies, identity diplomacy shaped by families. Every new Israeli-Filipino business is cultural architecture. Every tree planted is a stake in mutual care. Every story retold in two languages is a testament to the power of welcome. The larger arc here is beautiful. A crisis conceived in bombs and basements becomes a story of choice, resilience, renewal. Thousands of people didn't just leave, they leaped. Leaped over fear, over fatigue, over the false equation that loyalty means suffering. Their message is clear. You can love home without living hostage to it. You can honor your heritage without worshiping anxiety. You can create new roots without denying old ones. They are testing a hypothesis. If humanity chooses connection over conflict, history over headlines, kindness over convenience, real transformation happens, one life at a time. To witness this migration is to witness courage quietly blooming, to marvel at how people who've always been told to dig deeper and stand stronger are now choosing to build broader, live slower, and love fuller. It's not denial, it's discernment, choosing peace when violence feels inevitable, choosing joy when fear lingers, choosing roots when displacement seems destiny. The map reveals islands. The story reveals empathy. What's happening across sea is more than a movement, it's a manifesto. That safety doesn't come from bunker walls, it comes from community, emotional, cultural, economic. It comes from ensuring that every sunrise is earned, not endured. And it comes from remembering that kindness, silent, centuries-old kindness, can echo through time and keep building bridges. In Star Wars, they say, it's a trap. Here, we're saying, it's a turning point. Not all migrations are epic. Some are simply human. Some are driven not by headlines, but by hearts. And this one? It begins in crisis, but it doesn't end there. It continues in classrooms, cafes, design studios, playgrounds, balconies overlooking coconut trees. If there's a takeaway, it's this. Faith is not a prayer, it's a step forward. Belonging is not a birthright, it's a seed planted in soil of kindness. And identity is not geographic, it's generational, emotional, intentional. Thousands of Israelis are planting that seed in the Philippines. And as those seeds grow into life, they may remind us all that sometimes the bravest flight is not away. It's into a future we choose, with open hands and open hearts. If this story moved something in you, if it whispered hope into your ear, subscribe. Share it with anyone searching for peace or proof that humanity still remembers how to show up. Drop a comment. Would you follow the sound of calm, or have you? Because sometimes choosing peace isn't the easy thing, it's the bravest thing.